So me, chess, just two completely different worlds. I mean, if you looked at my ELO score, you'd think that time is flowing in reverse, but this year we're gonna change that, I hope. And so in this video, I wanna walk you through all the main topics that I wanna focus on and how I would work them into a schedule for daily practice. So the first thing that I really wanna work on this year is tactics. Now, tactics are sequences of moves that force your opponent to give up their pieces. They can really make or break your game if you know what you're doing and you don't just like hang your queen in 5 moves like I usually do. But provided that you do know what you're doing and say you figure out the right tactic, your upper rook, it gives you so much satisfaction. And then if you just manage to trade off all your pieces equally without making any blunders, you won if you know what you're doing and you know your endgames, which we're going to talk about later. And of course, there are many ways that you can practice tactics. You can use apps, you can use books, you can go online to different websites, you can look at videos. But I feel like the best way to do it for me is to actually go fully traditional and rely on books. And the reason for that is when I practice online, sometimes I find myself getting lazy, wanting to solve the tactics step by step so that I don't have to think through each possible variation, each possible and every possible response that my opponent could pull off. And I don't want that. I want to eradicate that completely. And so I just want to go for like a book and a notepad, and I'm going to write down all the possible ways in which it can go, and hopefully that will help me think things through a little bit more. So I'm trying to sort of hold myself accountable as much as I can. Also, the other big plus is that they come with commentary. Not all of them, but the ones that I think are the best come with commentary, and it can help you out a lot, because it's one thing to just kind of solve the tactic, you know, like you see the pin or the fork or whatever, you move the knight and it's like, okay, done. But when it comes to actually thinking about how to bring that tactic around in one of your games, what are the clues that tell you like, oh yeah, this is the moment where like there might be a tactic that I can pull off. Having that kind of mindset, which I don't have, and learning about how to develop it, I think is just as important as actually solving the exercise. And so I feel like books can be a lot better in that regard than a simple bunch of tactics in a row online. There's a lot of books that you can use. Some of them are like Predator at the Chess Table, which is the one I actually went for. This is based off of a website, so you can go to the website of the author and it's pretty much the exact same thing, just in web form. I just like the idea of having the book. I've already started going through this. I'm enjoying it a lot. It basically does exactly what I've been saying. So, you know, providing you with commentary that is very, very useful. This is actually a set of 2. I have the first one and then I will get the second one once I'm done with this one. So next up is openings. Now, openings are like the first few moves or sequences of moves that you can play at the start of the game. They act as a stepping stone for your strategy to eventually win the game if done correctly. Now, the thing about openings is that chess has been around for a long time, and so people have put a lot of thought into which one is the best opening, what are the right moves and stuff like that. And so there are a lot of openings around, and you know, you have like white should do this, black should respond this way, and they've been optimized. What that kind of leads to is like just rote memorization of a bunch of lines, which you can do, and I think that's very useful in higher level play, ironically, because when you're playing lower rated players, like I most likely will for most of my time, you end up in a situation where they just don't know that, right? Like they don't have a 2023 train plan in action. They just have a social life. And so, you know, you play your move and they play their move and you play your move, and then they do something completely out of the blue and everything you've been studying just gets thrown out the window. And you're back at square one. You're by yourself. Like there's no line that there. And so it makes more sense to learn the principles and the strategy behind the openings, especially and at least very, very early on, or that's how I feel about them. I will probably just like learn 1 or 2 openings for white, 1 or 2 openings for black, and then I will use those in the vast majority. Actually, I will try to use them in all of my games moving forward. I don't feel like at my stage I need any kind of real material, like super serious stuff to learn these openings, so I will mostly just rely on like YouTube videos and things like that. I do think that there's some value in learning gambits. You know, like I think everybody had things like these happen to them, and you don't want them to happen to you again or to keep happening to you. So you just go on and study what you should have done instead. And then once you've learned that, then you just have to keep it in mind. Now, the thing about learning them to use them and why I feel like that's a waste of time is because by using a gambit or a trap or anything like that, you're kind of just betting on your opponent's incompetence. And to me, that makes sense when you're playing lower rated players. And so, you know, you might think, oh, if I use this opening trap, then up to, I don't know, 1,000, like most people will fall for it and I'll just like level up very quickly. But that doesn't make much sense because for one thing, like it's not, you're not getting better, you're just tricking people. And secondly, you're really relying on their incompetence, which means that it's a strategy that if you're thinking about getting better at chess in the long run, it's just eventually going to lead you to fail. And I don't want that. And so I feel like when it comes to gambits, traps, and stuff like that, it just makes sense to learn how to not fall for them, but there's really no value in learning how to use them. I mean, there are definitely exceptions. Like, I'm not saying all of them fall into the same category of being completely useless, but I feel like some of them definitely do, and I am in no position to like tell things apart, so I will do my best to stick to like very solid and time-tested openings. Now, if openings are like aspects of the game where your opponent can throw you off by doing something completely random, endgames, they're the opposite, okay? Because it's all on you and like your knowledge of what you should be doing. Now, as you can probably guess, endgames are the later stages of the game when there's only like a few pieces left on the chessboard. These positions, for example, say you have like your king and a pawn versus the opponent's king. Depending on where the pawn is, that's a win. And it can be very frustrating to mess these up. And I hate it. I hate it when I find myself in these positions and I don't know what to do. I have never seen the theory before and it's under time pressure. When all of that piles up, it's very, very difficult, and it's certainly impossible for me because I keep messing them up, to figure out what to actually do. And then everything you worked for up to that point in the game, maybe you've done everything right, it just gets thrown away, like gone. So it's important to study endgames, and for this reason I decided pretty much like the same thing I said for tactics. I just want to take my time with them, and so I'm gonna go like the traditional route, just like a book and a notepad. I wanted to get Stillman's endgame course. I can't find the physical book for some reason on Amazon, so I might end up getting the ebook, but we'll see. And after having discussed openings, endgames, and tactics, now we need to talk about strategy, because strategy is what ties it all together. Strategy is like how you're approaching the game in order to win. You know, it's your plan. It's the answer to the question, now what, or what move should I do next, which is one that I often end up asking myself because I often have no clue what to do. And so my hope is that by studying strategy, I will eventually get to a point where no matter what situation I'm in, I always have a plan for what to do next and for what can lead me to a win. It's not always going to be the perfect plan or the right plan, but at least it's going to be a plan. And for strategy, as you can guess, I'm going to go for another book. It's going to be this book. It's the Comprehensive Chess Course. It's actually the second volume of this book that's supposed to be focused on strategy, but since I don't know anything anyway, I've decided to start from the beginning. I am really enjoying this book. It's actually set up to teach you how to play chess from zero. So the first, I've done like lesson 1 and 2. They are focused on like where to place the pieces on the board and stuff like that. But it also places a lot of emphasis on visualization and sort of like being able to see the board in your mind and really getting to know, what square is which color and stuff like that. And it contains a lot of exercises on that. And I found them to be very useful because a lot of times when I'm thinking about tactics, like having a better idea of what the board looks like in my mind can help me out a lot, especially when there are tactics that develop themselves that, are built throughout multiple moves and sequences. So I recommend that book. I think it's really good for what I read so far. I hope the rest of it will be just as interesting, and I am looking forward then to starting volume 2. So this will be my resource for strategy. And another great way to improve your strategic thinking seems to be studying master games. The idea is that you're going to look at how the top players of all time have approached the game so that you can learn from them. Again, nowhere near something that I can do at my level on my own with an engine by just looking at the moves. So once again, book it is. I picked Logical Chess by Irving Chernev, whose name I'm probably butchering right now. Move by Move. I have not had the time to check out this book because I just got it, but I hope I'm gonna love it. I've seen a lot of praise for this book all over the internet, and like I said, I need the commentary to really work my way through these games. It's probably something more advanced, but I feel like, you know, maybe just once a week checking out something like this can be a useful addition to my repertoire. And finally, you actually want to play the game. And when playing chess, in order to improve, I find that there's really two things that I must focus on. And number one is slowing down. I'm used to playing blitz games, like 5 minutes plus 5-second increments. The problem with that is you, especially at my level, don't have the time to think, don't think fast enough to consider your opponent's reactions and stuff like that, and you just end up blundering a lot. I'm trying to switch to 15 plus 10, but it's not that easy because it really takes some getting used to. Like, I find myself rushing through the moves. I have to force myself to stop, slow down, think about what you want to do. Think about what else you could do. Think about what your opponent might do after you do your move. I'm trying my best to focus on doing this and giving myself the time to think. And number two is post-game analysis. So I really want to take the time after every game, especially the ones I lose, to just look into them and figure out what kind of mistakes did I make? Did I make any blunders? Like, did I just hang a piece at a certain point, irrespectively of whether, you know, my opponent noticed it or not, because it's still a mistake. All those times that I was talking about before when I have no idea what to do next, I want to check them out and see sort of what the engine's recommendation for what to do next are, so that I can maybe get inspired by that at least a little bit. That's kind of what I'm trying to focus on when it comes to actually playing the game. And now, all of that actually brings us to the training plan. So why did I come up with a training plan, and what does it actually look like? I wanted to make sure every day that I would block out a certain amount of time to practice and learn, because otherwise, if I don't have a schedule to stick to, I find myself just doing whatever I want and whatever I enjoy the most, which is fine. But you know, what I love are these mindless blitz games that I was telling you about before. And no matter how many I play, I just don't improve. Like, I've been doing it for, I think, years at this point. I just don't get better. I've had moments when I got better, but then it would collapse again. So because of that, I just want to like try to take it a little bit more seriously. In order to avoid sort of defaulting to playing these games, I wanted to have some structure in my practice. My idea is that I'm going to have about an hour and a half every day to devote to training. Half an hour at the end is going to be devoted to playing the game, and the first hour is going to be devoted to a topic. So on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm going to do tactics for 1 hour. Tuesday, I'm going to do strategy. On Thursday, I'm going to do endgames. On Saturday, I'm going to do openings. And the reason why I put openings on Saturday is because I feel like during the weekends on Saturday and Sunday, we'll have a little bit more time. And openings, it seems to me that 1 hour is not enough to get the full version of the opening down. I don't mean it with all the possible variations, but I just mean it like even the main line, you know, if you really want to understand it and you really want to go through all the material, I feel like it takes a long time. And so I wanted to make sure that I placed it in days where I wasn't like so constrained or limited in terms of time. And then on Sunday, I put like the sort of master games study, because I hope that, again, I will be able to take my time with them and that they will be able to inspire sort of every time I play the upcoming week. So that's kind of the idea. Now, on some days, I might have more time, just like on some days I might not have enough. But if I do have more time, I'll probably like cycle through the plan for that day. You know, maybe it's 1 hour strategy and 30 minutes of play, and then I'll just do an hour of strategy, or I'll do an hour of tactics. Like, I'll just do something else. I fill it in, but with the same kind of structure. Now, will it actually work? I have no idea, but I certainly hope so. And if you want to follow along with me on this kind of journey, then just click that subscribe button. It would mean the world to me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.